episode 74 of the Gaming Roundtable Season 3. This is entitled Monster Hunter Part 2. And like I said, now that I have a good grasp of the game and understanding more about the game, I decided to bring you my Part 2 to tell you a little bit more about how my thoughts and feelings behind it. First of all, I want to give a shout out to a fellow hunter, Zizanti. I think it's how you pronounce her name. Thank you so much for the team up the other night. I had a good time hunting with you, and I hope that you are able to complete that task as you did before. I'm going to turn down the background volume in case it's a little on the loud side, because I know how this works with this streaming stuff. So I like to turn it down a little bit, and that way it's not overpowering like, everything else. I'll turn the sound effect down just to about 70 here. Hopefully that'll be enough. And if you're joining me, thank you for joining me. This is Monster Hunter episode part 2. I want to give another thing I want to say that's really interesting about this particular title. So far, Capcom has literally sold 5 million units, which is outstanding for a game that just released. But this is also the first time a lot of people are able to experience the game. And it's very popular with its online components and everything else you can do. Monster Hunter, and there's a lot of clones of the game, from your Tokidens to your God Eaters, and even Final Fantasy 14's or 15's multiplayer is very much similar to that. But there's only one Monster Hunter, and it has a certain vibe and feel about it, and that's why it's often duplicated, but never replicated into its entirety. Even though I love the Tokiden series and I love any Monster Hunter style games. This game in particular it's just badass. I had a little bit of a setback though. The night before last, I went to log into my character, and I had gotten, I wouldn't say like super far into the game, but I've gotten a fair amount of equipment and things built, and my character wasn't there. There was some kind of glitch in the save, or something happened, and I was kind of like devastated in a way. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But in a way, it wasn't that bad, because I actually was able to start over. So this is what I'm bringing you here in this part 2. I think the first one, my part 1, was a little bit discoherent, and this one is just going to talk a little bit about how this game is so much more accessible, and yet still has all the complexities and wonderful things that go on with Monster Hunter. And I think that that's one of the things that I give Capcom a lot of kudos to, for changing the way a lot of the melee weapons work, and also changing a lot of the ways that the game plays when it comes to its range weapons, because it plays much more like a third-person shooter. And I love that aspect of the game. I think that's really, really cool that they did that. And there's been so many little tweaks and so many little things that they have done to the game to really make it a much better game than I think any of its predecessors, with its accessibility, and yet still maintaining that level of really interesting gameplay hook and mechanics, where you go out, get your equipment, do more, do this. And I think it's really great the way that they set it up, and I'm very very happy with this game. And my first experience with the game was never with the handhelds. I actually was with my Wii U, as I said before in part 1, and I got to play Monster Hunter Ultimate. And Monster Hunter Ultimate was great. I just really enjoyed playing it. It was such a good game, generally speaking. And I love that aspect of the game and its hook. But I will say this though, it was a very daunting game at first for a new player. And I feel like that while there's a lot of tutorials in this, it is a little bit easier more to get into. And I think even if I had never played the game, I think I would feel the same way, personally. I find the game to be just excellent, and I think it is a good entry point even for people who may have never played the game. And I like the fact that it just, and you could switch weapons anytime you want if you get tired of one weapon, and I love all that. And I just feel like it's a much better game than the predecessors. It's gorgeous. It's got a beautiful hook. It's got these beautiful graphics in the world, where the map is incredibly large and huge. It didn't look like that at first because I really was hoping this game was going to be like Togeden 2 at first, where it's completely open world. But the world map is like in this ancient forest, for example. And let me finish this up and I'll show you. There's a lot of verticality here and there in the game, and I love that. Like if I go to my map here, this map is huge, and even though it doesn't seem like a large area, like compared to, let's say, GTA or anything like that, but there's a lot of areas where you can climb up and go down, and rivers and caves, and like I've spent a lot of time in expedition mode, just kind of exploring per se, and it's just such a good game. Like all the way around, it's a good game. I do miss from Monster Hunter Ultimate. I do miss the fact that in that game you could swim, and you could swim underwater, and so that was a whole nother level of exploration there. Nevertheless, though, it's not that huge of a loss given the circumstances. And I just like the idea of harvesting and doing this and going out and fighting big creatures and hunting. And if I want to like call in people and need help, I can actually go to my menu. I can fire an SOS flare so people can go back in the town that's your hub area and see who's got an SOS flare and who might need help, and I can actually ask for help, and that's pretty cool. I may have received a guild card. Guild cards are things that you can send to people, and I'm going to definitely receive that. And that helps you get vouchers and things like that. And it's just such an interesting game. And I think Monster Hunter has that wonderful element that's there. As you can see, that's locked, but that's the way I went to go to my town. And that's kind of neat that you can still go to that area. But it is a beautiful game. And it does have an overarching story. Like Monster Hunter Ultimate story there wasn't really a whole lot of story per se. It was like nothing was really connected, where this one's all about trying to find who the Elder Dragons are and where they're coming from and who they are. And I'm gonna attack this thing here. Sorry for the coughing, people. I'm still kind of trying to get over this cold I've had, and I'm on the basic tail end of it. And I'm gonna get this thing, and then hit him with my Dragon Piercer. And that's one of the things I will say that I really love about the game, is that fact they made the game, especially with the ranged weapons, feel much more like a third-person shooter. And because the ranged weapons in the other games, just had really strange control schemes and things like that. And it's one of the things that here, I'm going to have to fight these things or they're going to attack me. And it's the thing that I like about it is the fact that, the bow in particular, I used to use the bow in the original game, but the controls are really weird and strange in the way that translated, and I never really liked that aspect of the game. And even though I would play it, and eventually I acclimated to it, this plays so much more like they took cues from third-person shooters, and I think that's huge. I think that was one of the big changes that they did. And they also made where crafting on the fly is possible, and I love that aspect too. That's not always been a feature. With some of your melee weapons, you can crawl on top of creatures now and attack them, and so that's a nice feature. And that was in, I think, one of the 3DS titles before. And they took, it seems like to me, they took some of the best features from the previous, itinerations of the game, and just made it where if you're a new player to the game, you're gonna have an easier time acclimating to it and having fun with it. Like right off the bat, you're able to do stuff, craft, do your things. I also think that the crafting components, when you make weapons and armor, it's much more simplified, and it's easier to figure out, what upgrade, what do you need, what do you do, because they didn't really necessarily change the functionality of it, but what they changed was like the trees that you can see, like what needs this, what needs that, and if it's a type of monster or if it's bone or iron, like the way the upgrade is much easier to understand and read. And again, I think that's a contribute to Capcom wanting this series that's always had a level of success on the handhelds and on the Wii with Monster Hunter Tri and the Wii U version Monster Hunter Ultimate. And I think they've always wanted that kind of success And this game is bringing that, because so many new people are experiencing this for the first time ever, and they're loving it. This is my second time I've ever played Monster Hunter, and I love it. Like, I love the game. Like, it's got this wonderful hook. I find myself playing for hours, going and thinking, wow, have I really done anything, And then I'll do some story quests and then jump back into expeditions and do stuff. It's just really neat the way that they did it with the item management, and just everything is much more streamlined, and it's much easier to get into. But the battles are incredible. Some of them last for a long time, and many of them still do, just like, it's got all the classic elements of the previous games, but just that change in the way it's presented, the way they decided to make the game, and the way that they did everything, and is really, really refreshing. And I love that accessibility. So if you've never played Monster Hunter World, you really need to think about it. It's a game that will just hook you because of the feel of it and the way it works. It's just got this wonderful, feel to it, and this plays better than any of them, I think, from a control standpoint. And they just did such a good job taking all these cues and things like that, and I just think it's a really nice thing to have them to what Capcom has done for the series. And I think if you want, if you've never played it, you got to pick it up. And if you have played them in the past, you're going to really enjoy this particular iteration. And Monster Hunter is such a fun game to play. And even though I'm just kind of roaming around doing expedition modes, those old footprints earn me points and levels in that, and they open up more and more what we know about a monster. They added the grappling hook when you climb, and that's a nice little feature for fast climbing. And here's one of my camps that I opened up, and I love the game. Like, it's just such a fantastic game, and totally worth your time and energy. It's got an amazing creative player with lots of options and sliders, and so you can pretty much make your hunter how you wish, when you wish, and you have the ability in town. When you go to your home, you can change your appearance anytime you wish, and that's kind of a nice thing. Your hairstyles, your different colors. So if you want a different look, you can do that, and that's just a nice thing to do. So, like, if I go back, for example, I'm going to go ahead and let's end the expedition, and let's see here. I might have to talk, so we'll do this. She'll talk to me and then return from the expedition, and then that's done. And again, expedition modes, there's no time limit. It's your basic exploration mode, and then you have your story missions, and most of them have a 50-minute time limit, and that's where you actually are going out and doing stuff. Items gathered by your Palico, and you get rewards, of course. You do all that. You earn money, research points I earned there. That was kind of nice. Gadget proficiency and all that good stuff. So it's really, really, so it's a really, really nice thing to be able to jump back and forth if you don't feel like doing it. And the fact that they made the multiplayer much more easy to jump into, even though I would have liked to seen an Astera, like a bunch of other hunters walking around, kind of like Destiny's Tower. They didn't really do that, but they're there, and people join your sessions, and you join sessions, or you create one, and if you're out in the wild and you're fighting, let's say, a really tough creature, just fire an SOS. And it's not like, and I've had so many hunters just randomly show up to help me, and many of them help me complete a quest and stuff. I really thought that was great. I think that's a great feature of the game. So let me go up here. I want to show you some more stuff here for people who are new to this game, and why I sing its praise. And this is a game that has basically been in my PlayStation. I haven't even removed it since it came out. Like, I do have a ton of digital titles. Earlier I was playing Destiny 2. It's a digital title. This game remains. It's a hard copy game. If I really, really want a game, like I really want it, I buy a hard copy. If it's a game that I kind of would love to have, but I don't really care, I'll buy a digital copy. So let's say I'm talking to Smithy here, and you're talking to him, and this is what I was talking about when you go to forge or upgrade your equipment. So if I want to upgrade my equipment, let's say my bow, I go here. You can actually show a list what I can upgrade. This is like a fast thing, so you can go, cool, I can make the iron bow 2. That gives me 108 attack. It's affinity elements and coatings and stuff like that. If I go to the tree, this tree shows you I can make the iron bow. Right now, what I have equipped is the bone bow. It does more damage, but in order for me to upgrade it, I would need some more stuff. So I can't upgrade it just yet, but you can also zoom in on the tree if you want to see a more close-up version of it and whatnot. If I want to upgrade my armor, that's a little different. The way they do it, you just got to have certain things. But when you go to the forge equipment screen, let's say I go to weapons and I go to my bow, like I may have enough to forge something, which I don't right now. I just got the equipment because, again, I had to start over my character because the save was gone, and that kind of sucked. But I could also go to armor here. Again, very straightforward. It wasn't straightforward before like this. And so right now what I have equipped is the leather. Another thing I like is they did comparison. So I can see if I want to make something, what the comparison is, like the bone mail. Gives me pretty good attributes with no minuses, or that gives me minus to water but 1 to ice. And you can also preview any gear. So it says bone. If I clip it, see, it's now like equipped, or like I can preview it if I want. It tells me everything I want to make. So if I want to make certain things, I can check it out. And I think that's a really neat thing. And to be able to preview the gear before you buy it, so you get an idea what your character is going to look like. That's actually not bad, considering the leather's 2 and 2, and the bone makes it 6, 2, and then 2 thunder and versus dragon. So I'm going to go ahead and make that. It does cost money and materials. This game has no microtransactions. You can't like buy parts and pay to win. Capcom, thank you, bless you for not following that trend. And it allows you to equip it. I can equip it. It's equipped. Even though I could technically sell all the stuff I own, I'm going to tell you, you shouldn't sell anything, because part of your tree to upgrade stuff, sometimes you need that old weapon, because that will connect to another tree and things like that. So even though I could clearly sell my old bow, without that old bow, I can't upgrade my bone. It actually will take it away and it's gone. And so never ever sell any of your armor or gear. Just keep it, because you're going to want to. And you get many opportunities to have money. And now my character looks different. Some other things I want to show you real quick. I'm going to leave this area. This is the town of Esther. It's very large. And as you progress through the story and do missions, more and more people show up, more and more stuff opens up. You can do more areas to explore and do things like that. So that's kind of nice. And when I go into my room here, for example, so that that's what's basically going on here. You can see the different things you can do in your room. Your Murray's here, my little cat friend that you create, your housekeeper's here, and two of the friends you meet in the cutscene at the beginning is here. And that's what's pretty cool. And which is really cool that you can you can store all your gear here. This is your little home and whatnot. So again, they've always had the homes in a Monster Hunter, but I like the fact that, again, and they've always had the ability to change your appearance, but I do like the fact that they included this. It's got a great lighting engine. So let me go to my item box, for example. Let me change my appearance, and I can show you a little bit about that. And whatnot while it's loading. And here we are, and this is my character without any armor and the way he actually looks. And if you like, again, I can go in at any time, change my hair around, give them whatever I want, bald if I want, mohawks. There's a large variety of hairstyles, as you can see here. that gives you a variety of different things. That was a one that I like got for pre-order bonus or something like that. But like if I want to give them short hair, go back to long if I want. So let's say I give them short. Say I want to change the color. I can do that if I want to give them like a more, that's a sandy kind of blonde, or I can change the palette. You can also use save palettes if you want. You can get black hair or however you want to do it. So let's say I change it up, confirm that, and then confirm that, and then go to his facial hair and keep that, and just again change it up. I can do that, and go into your, you can get a variety of makeup and then things like that. And again, I find myself make it a little darker. Liking that idea. You can't do any of the sliders and change like the way your character face looks, but at least you get the ability to change hairstyles and things like that, and that will be helpful, especially if you're going to be playing the game and doing that. So now my character has a different look, and again, simple things, and it was in the, you could do the same thing in Monster Hunter Ultimate. You could talk to different people, change Mary's equipment, my Palico, which you get to dress and name. And Monster Hunter World is just fun. I'm telling you, I'm recommending it. I don't review the game, but if I was to review the game, it would be in a very high scoring game, because it's and not be just because I love this type of genre. It's just they took everything that I loved about the game, and they changed some of the stuff that was very complex and simplified it in a way for new players to enjoy, but kept everything the way it was for the old school players returning to really enjoy the game. And I'm going to have a drink here. Oh yes. A little bit of that beer there is nice. And that's what I'm talking about. This is just a wonderful game, and this is my part 2, because I think the part 2, showing you a little bit about Monster Hunter, it's different things. Provision Manager, you can talk to, which lets you turn in like things that you get. Tech Chief. There's so many different side quests. There's multi-quest. You can go to the quest board here, post a new quest. There's assigned, there's optional, there's events. So if I go to assigned, they're all completed until the next story thing, or I can go to events. Another thing that's kind of nice on the assigned ones is I can redo them. And, well, you can't repeat computer assignments, but, like, you can go, because you've hunted this stuff, you can actually go, and it's easy to find them again. You can go to these quests here. They're completed and whatnot, but like there's events, so there's different things you can like kind of do if you wish to do. Slaying quests, hunting quests, you can capture creatures. There's just a lot that you can do. You can, or like, let's go back here real quick to join a quest. This is where if I wanted to respond to somebody's SOS, if I search for SOS flares, for example, and there's one on an expedition, these are people who like right now you're the leader. There's some people helping them out. So if I want to go here, for example, these are the people playing, and I can say, hey, I'm going to go help this person out with whatever they're questing. It's a way to fight the completed quest creatures, with help too. It's really fun. And once it prepares, I can able to launch into the game. Again, it's real easy. The way they did the multiplayer in Monster Hunter Ultimate on the Wii U was so incredibly difficult to actually to join anybody. Like, I don't know why they made it that way, and there was people who were playing the game, but there you have it. That's kind of the way it is. So I can depart now, depart on the quest, and go. And I'm going to join their game, and that's how easy it is. It's pretty cool. So that's a little bit of more of Monster Hunter Part 2. I just wanted to show you. You saw a little bit of combat, you saw the town, and showing you some stuff like that. I totally recommend this game, and I want to thank you to my subscribers and people joining in on this episode of 73 or 74 Monster Hunter World Part 2. And as always, gamers, I'm going to be hunting some stuff down. Good gaming.